Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District. It is Tuesday, May 14th, and the time is 5:13. If I could have the Cherokee 5th grade choir students join us up here at the podium to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please stand for the pledge. And if you could all remain standing, please, we have a little special surprise. Thank you, ladies. And we'll see more of them again in just a little bit. If I could have a roll call starting from my far right.
Bonnie Sneed, Barbara Perleberg.
Denny Brown.
Pam Kirby. All right. Do any of the board members have any changes to the agenda other than I received an email, I think it was this morning or maybe late yesterday afternoon, that on the information discussion items number 10, that we were going to do item B, which is the report from Valley Interfaith Project first, and then that would be followed by the Student Advisory Board update. Other than that, are there any changes? Okay. So do I? And E will be moved up in front of C. So it will go Valley Interfaith Project, Student Advisory Board, Budget Committee, and then everything else will still stay the same. And I don't know if that's technically considered an amendment, but do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved by Board Member Brown, seconded by Board Member Sneed. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Okay. Dr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, and thank everyone for being here this evening. It's hard to believe that we are truly a week and a half away from graduation. This year has gone quick. I just wanted to mention that the music teacher for Cherokee is Ms. Janelle Brazen, so thank you for your efforts there. And I think we all would agree that was better than a Cardinals game or a D-backs game, so thank you all for that. Our first celebration this evening is from Mojave Middle School. Chris Asmussen, our principal. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, AV Homes. We look forward to a good, long relationship and for you to be able to attend lots of concerts in the future. Next, we would like to recognize an incredible award for 3 of our schools. We have 3 of our elementary schools that were named A-plus schools. And so, Dr. Dave McNeil.
Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, it is my honor to ask A-plus Principal Walt Chandler to the podium, A-plus Principal Margaret Cerna to the podium, and A-plus Principal Jeff Quisberg to the podium. We are extremely proud of our Anasazi, Cherokee, and Tavon communities for earning the prestigious A-plus School of Excellence designated by the Arizona Educational Foundation. In the future, we hope all of our schools receive this honor. A-plus schools are evaluated through an intensive application process and rigorous site visits by the AEF A-plus review panel, which consists of teachers, administrators, community volunteers, and business leaders. Preparation of each school's application involves its students, faculty, administration, and surrounding community. The A-plus School Recognition Program is designated to identify and recognize schools that exemplify excellence in student focus and support, active teaching and learning, curriculum and community parent involvement, leadership and assessment data. Schools retain their A-plus designation for 3 years, after which they can reapply. Some side notes here. This is the 4th time that Anasazi has received this award. 1995, 2003, and 2009 were the previous. And Tavon is the largest elementary school to receive this award. Please stand with me and honor these great leaders and communities. I've asked Mr. Quisberg to stay here. In addition to the A++++ award, Anasazi Elementary has been selected for its Good Morning Anasazi television program as an AZ Ed Foundation Ed Plus exemplary program. Advisor Kathy Constantinescu has advised students and staff with the daily production of these broadcasts for several years. She has with her tonight Alexis Camacho. Alexis, Camacho, Kaylee Philandro, and Dawson Viens, who are all cast members for this broadcast. This award is the first A-plus exemplary program award for Anasazi and the first of all Scottsdale Unified School Districts. These kids rock. Good job. Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask at this time that we have our Cherokee choir come back and sing a song that they created at their A-plus recognition award. So we're going to give them another chance here to do greatness. Thank you so much.
We've had great celebrations at all 3 of those schools. Tavon's just finished this afternoon. I would like to point out that only 28 schools in the state of Arizona were recognized as A-plus schools. And for us to have 3 of our elementary schools as part of that 28 is pretty remarkable. Good job. Great things are going on. Thank you all. Next, I would like to have Ms. Terry Kellen come up and present our Geography B winner.
Madam President, Governing Board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, I am very, very proud to introduce you to Cameron Donish. Cameron, if you'd come up here, honey. Stand right here, Cameron. Cameron is one of our incredible students at Mountainside Middle School who will represent the state of Arizona at the 25th Annual National Geography Bee next week, May 20th through the 22nd in Washington, D.C. Cameron has already won $100 in an all-expenses-paid trip to the finals. He'll be competing there for a $25,000 scholarship and a trip to St. Petersburg, Russia for the world champion in July. We are extremely proud of Cameron. This is an amazing accomplishment for Cameron, Mountainside, and Scottsdale Unified School District. We wish him the very best of luck at the Bee, and we, of course, will be rooting him on. Congratulations, Cameron.
And Cameron, I'm going to have your parents give me permission that you and I can enter the amazing race, and you're gonna help me get around the globe. So good luck to you. Next, I'd like to have Mr. Jeff Quisberg come back and present an award that is an interesting award because this is one that one of our young students has won, and it's one that some folks forget about. And so handwriting is incredible, and we have a champion right here.
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, it's indeed our pleasure to recognize one of our students for a very unique award. I've got Ms. Kim McQuown, our assistant principal, up here to help me with the presentation. I'm going to invite Madison Hepner to come up here. She's a second grader at Anasazi, and I challenge her to challenge any of you in a handwriting contest. She has been interviewed on television. She's been interviewed by a special production company that came to our school. And yes, she has a trophy almost as big as her. She was selected a Grand National Handwriting Champion this year. She's one of 8 students out of 285,000 students across the United States. And she has a little $1,000 check that's going into her scholarship fund. And we're just ever so proud of her, and I'd like to present her to you tonight. I'd also like to acknowledge her parents, Elise and Griff Hepner. Elise happens to be on the office staff at Anasazi, and she is a very, very humble but proud mother. So congratulations to her parents as well. Thank you.
Now we know who we need to go to get some of our certificates and things signed. We're going to have good handwriting on those, so thank you. Next, Dr. Mitch Simmons is going to come up and present some of our CTSO award winners.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Peterson, Ms. Como. Over the last several months, CTE students from all of our high schools competed in career and technical education student organization state competitions. We also call these CTSOs. At these state competitions, we had over 40 SUSD students win or place in their respective event. A career and technical student organization is a powerful instructional tool integrated into the curriculum to help students gain 21st century employability skills that connect academic standards to relevant and rigorous work-based learning activities. At state competitions, students participate in a wide variety of events that simulate work-based learning situations. Students compete in either individual or team events. Thousands of students, having trouble with the mic, thousands of students from across the state compete in these events. For our students to medal in an event is a major accomplishment. Many of our students that medaled also qualified to compete in their national CTSO competition. Some of our students have already gone on to the international and national competition, and we will have more competing at national competition this summer. Last year we had 2 students from Chaparral win nationals in hospitality management from Chaparral High School. It is great pleasure that I ask our CTSO students that may be in attendance, along with their teachers, advisors, that are here to stand and be recognized for their incredible accomplishments in medaling in a CTSO event. Is anybody here? For anybody that is here, I have a bunch of certificates I will hand out in the lobby, and we'll take a picture. Thanks for coming. Thank you, board.
Again, congratulations. Career in technology is an important part of our curriculum and students' futures, so we want to say thank you to the teachers for their good service and work, and students, congratulations. Next, Ms. Michelle Marshall, Cliff McKenzie, and Ann Otzinger will present the MLK Scottsdale Community Collaborative's Scholarship Committee scholarship winners for this year.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members Dr. Peterson and Sandra. Tonight is my honor as a community celebrating diversity board member and president of the Martin Luther King celebration to announce the recipients of the Scottsdale Community Collaborative Scholarship, made possible through funding by corporate sponsors who support Le Grand Fiesta and the annual Martin Luther King Jr. celebration in partnership with Community Celebrating Diversity. And at this time, I would like to introduce the Scottsdale Community Collaborative Scholarship Chairperson, Ann Otzinger from Mojave Middle School, she's also the assistant principal there, to introduce this year's recipients. And I would also like to have Michelle Marshall, our district general counsel and co-chair of the Scottsdale Community Collaborative Scholarship, give the recipients their certificates to them after the conclusion of our presentation.
Good evening, Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson, and Ms. Como. The scholars were selected based on the combination of criteria, including financial need, community service, academic performance, leadership, a required essay, having a minimum GPA of 2.0, and a rank in the top 25% of their senior class. This year, it is my honor to announce that all 3 of our scholarships were awarded to Scottsdale Unified School District students. This year's awarded recipients were Samnia Gupta. He is graduating from Desert Mountain High School with an overall 4.29 GPA.
All right.
He is a member of the Desert Mountain International Baccalaureate Program, National Junior Honor Society, Unitown, and Physics Club. Somnia's goal is to create an environment that utilizes diversity as a tool to bring understanding regarding different cultures. Somnia is a student that is referred to as a student that goes the extra mile with character and dignity. A young man that will always advocate for what is right. Somnia plans to attend Arizona State University to major in chemical engineering. And on a side note, he is also an athlete for 3 seasons. So, all right, our next recipient is Jonathan Hernandez. He is graduating from Arcadia High School with an overall 3.35 GPA. He is a member of the Scottsdale Unified School District Service Learning Program and Robotics. Jonathan's goal is to advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves. Jonathan is a student that is known for doing little things for others to make others feel appreciated. He is passionate about youth having a voice and making a difference. Jonathan volunteers every Tuesday evening at the Miracle League and has been an influential part of lives of many youth in this program. Jonathan plans to attend Arizona State University to major in justice studies. And our third recipient is Dominic Bergs. He's graduating from Saguaro High School with an overall 3.6 GPA. He is a member of the City of Scottsdale's Youth Corp and Swaro Ambassador, as well as an athlete in all 4 quarters. Dominic is a student that is known as an extremely well-rounded young man that is a true leader. Dominic has volunteered over 900 hours of community service in the Scottsdale community. He has been volunteering for the City of Scottsdale since he was 11 years old. Dominic plans to attend Arizona State University to major in aviation engineering. Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we will have our reception in which each of these students will be receiving $2,500 for their college fees.
Perfect.
Thank you for letting us acknowledge these great young men.
Congratulations, guys. And for the record, it's ASU 3, U of A, nothing. Just saying. Finally, our last celebration this evening is from Chaparral High School, Mr. Ken Van Buren. And this is a unique recognition. We have a lot of Honor Society type recognitions, but this is one that truly is a standout. And so, is Mr. Van Buren here? All right.
Madam President, board members, Dr. Peterson, and others. As the last Latin teacher in the Scottsdale School District, from the last high school teaching Latin in the Scottsdale School District, I am here to offer my congratulations to the Chaparral High School Latin students for their accomplishments this year. As Dr. Peterson pointed out to you, the Honor Society is a little bit different than others because in the other languages, once a student is inducted, they're in. In the Latin Honor Society, they are inducted every year, and we can begin with the freshmen all the way through the seniors, and this year I had the distinction of having one student be inducted for the 4th year in a row, and so that was particularly special for me. On May 2nd, 24 students were inducted into the National Latin Junior Classical League National Latin Honor Society for 2012-2013. I would also note that 13 students were presented certificates and medals for placement in the National Latin exam. Of the 40 students of mine that took it, and it is optional, 13, almost 1/3 of them placed. For the exam, I would make note of this, that there are 5 levels, and we placed in all 5 levels, and the placement is in the top 20% of all the students who take the exam. The exam is administered not only nationally, but also internationally as well, and the Honor Society also is recognized internationally as well. So I, as I said, find this as a rather unique honor to be able to recognize them in front of you. And although none are able to attend this evening, AP exams, jobs, et cetera, I have assured them that your congratulations will be extended to them. And I'd like to end with this because I'm sure most of you aren't going to be able to understand it. But as we say in Latin, eugapai, job very well done. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Now we move to public comment. Public comment is the opportunity for the public to address the governing board on matters not on the agenda. Personal attacks upon board members, staff personnel, or other persons in attendance or absent by individuals who address the board are not acceptable. In conformance with open meeting laws, the governing board may not discuss or take action tonight on any matters raised that are not on the agenda. However, the governing board may respond to direct criticism, ask staff to review the matter, or ask that it be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, each speaker will have 3 minutes. Looking through these, and these are all budget related, it appears, which we are considering later on the agenda. Is there any objection to just doing these now? Okay. All right. So those of you who have been here recently know the drill. I'll ask one speaker to come up, and then we'll have another speaker on deck. And we do have a good 45 minutes potentially of speaking time. So my assistant here, trusted assistant, Board Member Brown, will be giving you the heads up when you are approaching 3 minutes. So first up, we'll have, and I love how you fill out your card, Roni, Mr. Solly, if you'll come up, followed by Mary McCarthy on deck, please.
And Madam President, as Mr. Solly comes up, I just would like to let folks know that prior to this meeting, we did have a governing board work session regarding the budget. We are very close to closing the budget cap, and based on the work that has taken place to date, we will not have to implement a 1% salary decrease for certified teachers.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Mr. Solly, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening, governing board members, Madam President, Dr. Peterson, and Sandra. I came to speak to you about 3 months ago when this budget crisis began, and I think along the way in those 3 months, a lot of things have happened and a lot of directions were taken. So I kind of want to bring it a little bit back in terms of the reality that we're dealing with. And the reality are a few things. So we have a state that does not fund public education. First reality that we live in. We have legislators who publicly do not support public education and will do anything that it takes to really tear us apart. So that's something that we have to deal with. And their goal at some point is to divide our community, so we really tear each other apart. We also have an override that did not pass in November, and that's a biggie. And we have a $9 million budget gap that we have to fill. So those are things that we have to live with, and those numbers are huge. So in reality, when we approach with the RESPECT campaign of keeping cuts as far away from the classroom, $9 million is a lot of cuts to make. So it's bound to affect a lot of different areas. So that's something that we also have to live with. But I think we have options. That's really my goal, is moving forward. So how can we move forward as a district to make sure that we don't put ourselves in the same exact situation again? And I think about the state and the legislators in terms of funding, and there's a lot of things that we can do every single November when we decide who gets placed in office. And there's a lot of things we can do when we can reach out to our legislators and invite them into our classroom and invite them to be part of what a teacher goes through every single day, so they see how hard teachers actually work. In terms of the override failing, we have to pass this next override. Regardless of anger and being upset and taking it personal and being frustrated, we are all in the same boat. And I don't want to be in it again come December of next year. I don't think anybody has the energy or the emotion or the frustration to have to deal with this again and again and again. And we still must keep cuts as far away from the classroom as possible. I mean, the goal, when we talk about Scottsdale School District educating students and making sure we give them the best quality education, thank you, that means that we have to do our best to save programs and to keep quality education and to keep quality teachers. But the way that we do it, I think, needs to be in a manner that's unified. As I'm looking at that word up there, is we can still talk about places in terms of how do we generate revenues and how do we get creative, but it has to be done in a collaborative manner, because if it's not, it's going to be ineffective, and at the end, it's going to end up tearing apart a great district that we've already built. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solly. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move through these quickly, and so if I could ask you to please hold your applause until the very end, if you would choose to applause at that time. Next up, we have Mary McCarthy, and then after that on deck is Brittany Case.
Great. Hi, everyone, Madam President, board members, everybody, Dr. Peterson, and the room at large, because my comments are directed to everyone tonight. I just sat through the, God knows how many of my the work studies the board has conducted. I have to commend everyone, administration, board, parents, SEA, everyone has worked so very hard these last couple of months. Let's start with that. Everybody is working for the same thing in this room, better education for our kids. When we started this, specials were on the table, nurses were on the table, we were going to lose. Thanks to everyone's hard work, specials are back, the nurses are staying. And I was in the work study just before we came in here that did take the 1% pay reduction to certified off the staff. I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled. I think this is excellent work on everyone's part. And something not mentioned, there was a great consensus, and Dr. Peterson brought this up, that he vehemently does not want to see cuts to classified employees and their benefits and pay. So I think that's something that needs to be out in the ether here as well. At the same time that I'm celebrating all of these, I would like to say one of the things that is still in front of us is that we have a communication problem. I've met with a variety of district leaders. I've met with each of you board members, and I think that we're getting there. I would encourage all of us to literally quit speaking in tongues and quit using acronyms and assuming that we all mean the same thing when we say a single word. Explain yourselves well on both sides of the aisle, on all sides. Everyone, take the time. Please do not try to be funny on Facebook. None of us are funny on Facebook. We're all too old. We don't know how. It is always going to be taken the wrong way. It is going to create another little fire that we're going to have to try to put out. And at this point, we've made so much progress toward a stronger classroom. When we come back this time next year and we're looking at the Auditor General's report and we see that our classroom spending is up, that our administration and transportation budgets are tighter, we're going to remember this time as being very difficult, but having been worth it. So that is exactly where we are, at stop. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. Okay, Ms. Brittany Case, and then next on deck is Wendy Pais.
Good afternoon. I'm Brittany Case from Coronado High School. I'm a senior, and I'm here to talk about the petition we started at my school called Save the Fox, because we heard news that Dr. Fox was going to be moved back to Arcadia High School. And when we heard that, we were not happy, because Dr. Fox is more than just an administrator at our school. She is a friend to everybody. The first day she stepped on our campus, she welcomed everybody, made sure she knew, like, everyone. Now, some of the people at our school, our administrators, aren't that way. And I feel that if Dr. Fox was to be taken out of Coronado High School, Coronado would go down dramatically, because she helps students. Me, myself, she's helped me gain scholarships. Scholarships that I didn't even hear about because I just wasn't in the know. And she would look out for our students. If someone was in trouble, she was there to understand their story when some people weren't that way. And I feel that she's just not someone to be placed around. She wants to stay at Coronado. She doesn't want to be moved. We don't want her to be moved because she's just not someone to be moved. She has a home here. Like, she has a home at Coronado High School. And if you look in her office, you see pictures of students, countless pictures of students with sports, just hanging out in the hallway. She sees someone, she takes a picture, she puts it in her office. She cares about students, and that's her home. Coronado is her home, and moving her is a huge mistake, and it would drastically change Coronado and would make people sad and just it's not a home to people then. And that's really all I have to say, because I'm very passionate about Dr. Fox. She's like my mother. She's like a lot of people's mothers, and she cares. And that's one of the very few administrators that actually does care. And I'm saying that deep down from my heart, she cares. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up would be Wendy Pais, and then after that on deck is Lori Abdo.
Good evening. I come to this meeting with a heavy heart and fear of what's to come at Coronado High School. I've been able to experience Coronado for the past 5 years, first starting with my observations in the classroom, then student teaching as an ASU student, then of course as a long-term sub, and then currently my role as a teacher for the past 3 years. I love Coronado. I have a passion for Coronado, and I always want what's best for Coronado to happen. And I'm here in support of Dr. Logan Fox, and I would like to share what she has done for the JAG program. But please let me introduce myself. My name is Wendy Pies. I'm the JAG coordinator of Coronado High School. JAG is a college and career preparation course that focuses on student leadership development, career exploration, service learning, and social awareness. And I work with at-risk students that work on their personal goals to ensure that they are ready to be successful upon graduation. 2 years ago, I was given the honor, the privilege, the opportunity, and the challenge to take over as JAG coordinator at Coronado. And as sad as it is to say, when I got the program, it was in shambles. I did take over. For the summer prior, I worked on trying to figure out, how do you make a program work? How do you make a program where skills are learned, where it's an open environment for students to actually get to know themselves and grow? Well, those are just ideas. I came the beginning of that year with ideas, but Dr. Logan Fox made those ideas a reality, because instead of telling me what to do, she embraced the ideas that I had and allowed me to do what I wanted to do, which was grow the program. In our first year working in collaboration, the JAG program grew and began to gain the attention of our school and soon our district. By the year's end, the Coronado JAG program was named JAG Program of the Year for the state of Arizona. And this year, once again, we had a successful competition with 11 awards and first runner-up for our program. Dr. Fox has been JAG's #1 supporter, and my kids respect and admire her. Dr. Fox spends time with each of my students to show them that she cares. She spends countless hours mentoring, tutoring, working with my students on scholarships and academic remediation. She has gone to college tours and events to support the JAG students. She's always willing to take time for her students and the families at Coronado. This year, she acted in the parental capacity and took some of our seniors to their ASU orientation. She goes above and beyond what she is expected as an AP. My students always know that Dr. Fox always has their best interests in mind and that they can depend on her for guidance. I know that Logan's absence from Coronado's campus will be detrimental to the spirit and morale of the teachers and the students of Coronado. Please love and respect Coronado as much as I do, and keep Dr. Logan Fox a true Don, because after all, educators do what's best for students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Lori Abdo. And then after that is Courtney Kemp.
Good evening. My name is Lori Abdo. I am the administrative assistant to Dr. Fox, and I'm here on her behalf tonight also, as are many others here in the room. I'm so used to being behind the scenes and really am not comfortable standing here in front of everyone, but I feel passionate about coming in today to tell you that we are adamant at the school that we do not want to lose Dr. Fox. She's become an important part of our campus. She's a big part of the heart of our campus now. And the idea of taking her away from Coronado is definitely going to be detrimental to the morale. We've already noticed it in the few days that it's come to people's attention that she has been selected to be moved back to Arcadia, and it's not the happy campus that it usually is. So on behalf of others who can't be here tonight and others that will be speaking tonight, I'd like to say, please reconsider, keep her at Coronado. We need her.
What's your last name again? Kemp. Okay, Courtney. And then after Courtney is Miko Long.
Madam President, governing board members, Dr. Peterson and Ms. Coma. First, I'd like to thank you for giving us this forum to voice our opinions about something that we're passionate about, which is a leader on our campus at Coronado. So I thank you for that. I apologize, I'm reading from a script to ask a teacher to limit us to 3 minutes. It's next to impossible, so please bear with me. I come this evening on behalf of many of the teachers, staff, students, and families of Coronado High School. We recently received word that our assistant principal and athletic director, Dr. Logan Fox, was going to be transferred to Arcadia High School as of next school year. This decision is not only going to negatively affect our campus and community, but it is devastating to the morale, traditions, and loyalty for which this campus is built on. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Courtney Kemp. I have served the Coronado community as a social studies teacher for the past 12 years. I am the senior class advisor, varsity track coach, Dawn X sponsor, PBIS leadership team member, and most recently awarded the honor of being one of the Charles Educators of the Year. As you can see, I have dedicated my life to the Coronado campus, and I am invested in this community. I cannot allow for this to happen without voicing my concerns to this decision. In the 12 years I have served at Coronado, I have seen more than a dozen assistant principals come and go from our campus. To say we have had a lack of consistency in that area would be an understatement. When Dr. Fox came to our campus, we were thrilled to see a leader that believed in this community and believed in re-imaging the look of our campus and more specifically our athletic programs. She has worked to build strong bonds with the students and families of our campus and spends countless hours working on scholarships, counseling, and ensuring that our kids feel safe on this campus. She has become a mentor to many, but a team leader to all. Outside of the campus, she has bonded with our families. Our families make appointments to see her and only her. Our families make appointments to talk to her, to question with her. Even if she is not the assigned assistant principal for their child, she is trusted and respected, and this is not the case for all. I understand that Coronado High School is in a transitionary period, which is all the more reason that we have at least one person on this campus that understands and supports the staff we have here, the traditions we have created over the past 52 years, and the academic success that can only grow with the comfort of a campus where everyone feels they belong. The one person that should be kept on this campus is the administrator that has 15 years of service to this district and has a combined total of years experience as an administrator that equals more than all of our administrators together. We must build an environment that is nurturing and safe for our students, but with the recent decision to move Dr. Fox away from our Coronado family, you're instead creating a petri dish of hostility. This hostility will negatively affect our academics, test scores, athletics, and activities. Please make the right decision and support Coronado, support our families, support our community, and support the success of our campus. Please keep Dr. Logan Fox at Coronado.
Thank you. Miko Long is up next, and after that on deck is Chris Marsh.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Miko Long. I'm a junior at Coronado High School. I'm here to speak on behalf of not only the junior class and other students at Coronado, but also the athletic programs at Coronado. I play basketball, I've run track, I've done volleyball, and I'm sure another sport that I'm forgetting. But, but I've done a lot at Coronado, and Dr. Fox coming in last year, she's changed so much for Coronado for the athletics program. I've told many people this at Coronado. Before Dr. Fox came, the football team has been wearing the same uniforms that they've been wearing since my brother went there almost 10 years ago. And that goes with other sports as well. Dr. Fox isn't just a vice principal at Coronado. To many students, she's a teacher, a motivator, a helping hand. She's a guide, and she's also a mother, as some have all said. Dr. Fox, personally to me, is a second mom at that school. I talk to her more than most of my teachers that I see every day. Every time, like another student has said, every time you see her in the hallway, she's so excited to see anybody, even if she doesn't know you yet personally. She is so excited, and she just wants to hug you and ask how your day is going. And that's the same with a lot of the students who see her there. Dr. Fox, she's one of those faculty members that makes it a point to be interested in what the students have to say and their life and their stories. She goes to every sports events that is at that campus and off campus as well. She makes it a point to care and to support us, not only in sports but also in our dance department, our choir department, our theater, orchestra. She makes it a point to show that she cares. She also is a motivator, as I said, and personally, a story that I have. This year, I kind of dropped the ball, and I stopped caring and stopped putting my all into things that I was doing, and she pulled me aside, and she helped me go from having mostly C's to now having A's and B's, and caring and putting my all and giving everything to school. She's just done so much. And as I said, that's not just my story, that's many people's stories at that school. So losing Dr. Fox she's such a big part of that school, and losing her would be a terrible loss to not only the school, but the hearts of most of the students. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Chris Marsh, and then next up is Jerry Smith.
I want to meet Dr. Fox. Good evening. Thank you for being here. This has to be a very thankless job right now. I'm Chris Marsh. I've taught at Chaparral High School for 21 years, and I'm also going to be reading from a script. There were 3 years in a row when 100% of my advanced placement English students passed the College Board test. My classes averaged about 22 students then. In recent years, my class average has gone up above 35, and my pass rate has dropped to 92%. That's still 30 percentage points above the national average, but it should be 100. While the test has remained basically the same, I could even argue gotten easier, and I have definitely become a better teacher, my students aren't passing at the same rate that they would with smaller classes. The students deserve that chance. I think that we're doing our students an injustice by limiting them from their ability to succeed. Thus, in the midst of this budget crisis, I would argue that yes, we should be cutting anything but teachers. Heck, I would take it one step further and argue that keeping the current student-teacher ratio isn't even good enough. We should be reducing class size. Reduced class size could take the place of a lot of technologies, committees, PLCs, new policies, in-services, and fluctuating educational directives such as we've seen this year. Cutting those things could potentially save a great deal of money that we could funnel back into the classroom. For the record, when I read it earlier to my class, it took me 49 seconds. I timed it, which is about the amount of time that I have each day with my students on any given day. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry Smith, and then next up, okay, ladies and gentlemen, if we could, please hold the applause so we can move through these. Jerry Smith, and then after that, Billy Gerchik.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm also a teacher at Coronado High School, and hearing the discussion of Dr. Fox reminds me that I have been a teacher advocate, as you know, for very many years, and argued on behalf of teachers and teachers' rights during all that time. But never have I or my association in advocating for teachers been anti-administration. We make a point of not being anti-administration. We respect our board, we respect our administration, and yes, we respect our teachers. And so saying, I would say that everybody in this room should be very angry tonight, because speaking of teachers, I'm reminded that some of our association members met with members of the administration the other night, and we're talking about what we need to do in this district to become, to improve the feeling of family. And at our high schools, we have that feeling of family, and sometimes it doesn't express itself over the district as well as it should. But today and last week, it hit home with me, this feeling of family, with the issue of Dr. Logan Fox. Why is she being transferred? Primarily because, not because we don't have work for her to do, but because we have budget issues. And I say we should be very angry tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because of our state legislature. We shouldn't be blaming administration for the kinds of cuts that are taking place here in this school district. We shouldn't be blaming our board for the kinds of cuts and the kinds of anguish that we're feeling here this evening. We should be angry at those people who fund our school district and who are responsible for funding our school district. So we need to look at the big picture. We need to understand that we're making cuts like the ones that we feel when we lose Dr. Logan Fox, the ones that we feel when we hear that our CTE director is going to be transferred. This man has done a wonderful job for years and years, and all the CTE teachers feel the support that he has given us and how hard he has worked on our behalf. We should be damn mad, and we shouldn't take it anymore. I hope everybody will remember that when we vote this fall. In the meantime, quickly I want to say we have an override that we need to pass this fall. It is hugely critical that that happen, and so the SEA, the Scottsdale Education Association, would like to express and disavow any association with some of the letters that you've seen regarding administration this week. We totally disavow that. That's not the way we work. And so I'd want to make that clear to all parties.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Billy Gerchik, and the next up is Brad Dykus.
Briefly, my name is Billy Gerchik, and not only was I a member of Desert Mountain's first graduating class, but I did my student teaching at Chaparral under some outstanding individuals in this room. For a decade, I've been at Coronado High School, teaching English, coaching baseball, serving as journalism advisor. I now serve as an adjunct professor at Mesa Community College, and I'm speaking here as somebody who is concerned about our community, and it's going to start off from our mission statement. I'm supposed to post this in my room every single day, where it says, Coronado High School's mission is to provide a challenging, positive, and diverse educational environment where students of all backgrounds develop the capabilities needed to become lifelong learners and responsible citizens. And I'm a beneficiary of this district by being able to develop those capabilities. At Coronado High School, however, with some tough decisions that are being made, I would like to advocate on behalf of not only a couple of individuals, but for our complex getting increased support. One thing that hasn't been mentioned tonight is that Coronado High School, when it considers how we develop those capabilities, parental involvement for various reasons with our working parents is abysmal. We have a PTO of less than 10. We have, when it comes to tax credit money, Coronado, according to 2012 returns to the state, came up with $75,000, and the other 4 high schools averaged $300,000. And that is not to denigrate the great work that's being done by our parents throughout the community and the broader district. But when it comes to the support that our students get, especially in extracurricular activities, Dr. Logan Fox is integral to that. And rather than put into a position where we are sending an administrator off campus, when we talk about enrollment being the metric on how we keep people and staff our personnel, the reality is, and I wish it was different, is that the other 4 high schools have much more involved parents than we have. And so rather than the either or of this person or that person, I argue that instead we should keep Dr. Fox and keep individuals instead of putting them off campus for the betterment of the community. This also benefits Scottsdale because a more civically engaged Coronado complex, I'm going to speak this way, benefits us all. Right now, South Scottsdale does not have civically engaged individuals with wonderful exceptions, and we need to be more cohesive. And if we lose an administrator on this campus, we are going to be spinning our wheels, and the idea of having a cohesive message out in the fall, in particular with the bond, is going to be lost. And the last thing I'll briefly say is I did not bring my state championship ring tonight, and I will not wear it again, ever, in the city of Scottsdale if Buck Holmes is not a Coronado Don next year. This is a man who we understand that the SEA and the purple sheet is an outstanding metric and people work together for this, but this individual who is currently slated to teach at the elementary school label, this is a 2-time state coach of the year, and this is an individual who coached 2 sports, which
Mr.
means
Gerchik.
after school hours.
Thank
There may
you.
be nobody else on campus that has.
Next up is Mr. Brad Dykus, and after that is Julie. And I know Mr. Dykus, go ahead. Thank you.
Evening. Thank you. I have been in the district for 17 years. I've been Teacher of the Year at Chaparral High School 4 times. I'm good at what I do. I'm better this year than I've ever been. The teachers are here tonight because we care about public education. But we need to refocus our efforts on the teachers and the students. We need to cut the bureaucracy. We need to stop with the nonsensical busy work that burdens teachers and takes away from engaging students every day. If we don't take dramatic steps, the next override will not pass. After 17 years, I watch my colleagues every day with a sense of hopelessness. They're tired. They're demoralized. they don't feel valued. They don't feel respected. This is larger than Scottsdale. The country is changing, and we could be at the forefront of change. Scottsdale should be at the forefront of change. But this is larger than Scottsdale. This is larger than everybody in this room. This is about our country, having an educated population. Please respect the teachers and the students of this district. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have Julie, help me with your last name. Sanowski. Thank you.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Peterson and Ms. Como. My name is Julie Sanowski, and this year Scottsdale Schools has faced some huge challenges. Failure of the override this past fall and minimal state public education funding has put us in many uncomfortable situations this past year. You have been faced with balancing a budget which will alter our Scottsdale way. I ask, as you proceed, that you continue your commendable efforts in communicating your actions to all stakeholders, and that you attempt to continue to keep the cuts as far away from real classroom impact as possible. I am convinced with your efforts that, and everyone in this room and their efforts, that we can pass this override in the fall. But we all know there are some things we need to do first, and one is communicate positive messages within our community. And that's what starts within the Scottsdale school community as well, that we need to really work together with that. I believe in a unified focus within our district and our community. I believe if we can become more unified, that we will pass that bond, or that override, excuse me, in the fall, and we will continue to celebrate the Scottsdale way and the successes that we've heard of tonight in every board meeting. You guys are privileged to hear of all the great things that go on in our district. Many of the things don't even make it to the boardroom. So let's all, I challenge everybody in here to get out and fight for that override. If we're going to fight a fight, let's fight for the override. Let's communicate the need and necessity of that override to pass. And let's not sit back on our heels and feel like we've succeeded because we're not going to get the cuts we originally thought we were going to get. Let's continue to move on. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. That is all of the public comment cards I received. Is there anyone who believes they turned one in that did not get called to the podium? Okay. Thank you. Dr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Again, I'd like to thank our public for being here this evening and being engaged. Thank you for your comments. Just a couple of final superintendent's comments. As I said previously, it's really hard to believe that we are a week and a half away from graduation and great work and honoring students and the teachers that have helped them be successful in their careers. We do have a proclamation I would like to share, and that's regarding our National School Nutrition Professionals Week. The staff and the district school meals and nutritional department are committed to providing healthful, nutritious meals to the district's children. The men and women who prepare and serve school meals help nurture our children through their daily interaction and support. Therefore, on behalf of the governing board, I do hereby proclaim the week of May 6th through the 10th as National School Nutritional Professionals Week in Scottsdale School District. Ms. Patty Brilbury, we want to say thank you for all your nutritional folks and everything they do out there. Thank you.
If you don't mind me taking a second here, Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Peterson, Sandra, on behalf of all of our staff and nutrition services, we want to thank you for honoring and recognizing us today. These are hardworking, dedicated individuals who don't get a lot of recognition. And they don't just serve your kids food every day, they do it with a smile, and they encourage our kids. And we really, really appreciate the job they do. And if I seem a little emotional, I have been asked, on behalf of my staff, to take this opportunity to thank the governing board, Dr. Peterson, and all of our outstanding leaders in this district for everything they've done to support us. We know what you do, and we appreciate it. And it's under your leadership that we are all very, very proud to be part of this Scottsdale family. So we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. And I might add, her folks do a tremendous amount. They actually make a lot of money that comes back to Scottsdale School District that make a big difference. We have a lot of outside companies that would love to come in and displace our own workers because they know the profits that could be made. And those dollars come back to help keep the cuts away from the classroom. So thank you and your staffs. There's some principalships that I would like to announce because we've got some great leaders in Scottsdale schools, and I'm very, very proud to say that our upcoming new principalships are from within. We truly have talented individuals, and I would just like to recognize those new principalships that are going to be taking place for this coming year. First, Lori Pizzo will be the principal at Tonalea Elementary. Lori's currently at Laguna as the assistant principal. Lori. Next, Mr. Dale Link will be the interim principal at Desert Canyon, serving 2 principalships there. Dale currently is however many speed bumps away over here at Arcadia High School, so he's 12. So and we're looking for great things, and I can tell you, Dale, I've already had a lot of great emails from the community there saying thank you for your job meeting with them. So you're doing a great job already connecting. So thank you for that. Next, I'm pleased to announce Miss Nikki Wilfert will be our principal at Desert Mountain High School. Nikki currently is the assistant principal there and the IB administrator, so she's moving on up, but she's got big shoes to fill with Greg leaving. So good luck, Nikki. We're very proud of you for the work you've been doing. And then finally, our principal for Navajo Elementary School will be Miss Amy Moore. Amy currently is the assistant principal at Navajo Elementary School, and again, the staff there say nothing but great things about Amy. She's doing a wonderful job this year, and we appreciate her efforts. Next, I'm pleased to announce that Mr. Henry Zhang from Chaparral. Is Henry here? Let me share with you. He's a student at Chaparral High School. He received a summer research internship for this summer with the Southwest Association for Education in Biomedical Research. Pretty big deal. He wrote a paper on how has biomedical research using animals benefited a pet, you or someone you know. His teacher is Mr. Malcolm Linewool, and Malcolm's going to receive a gift card. And we have great things with Henry serving out this summer on a summer internship. So also we had Daniel Matloff, who's a student at Saguaro, was the runner-up in the contest, and his essay was titled Rays of Hope Shine on Basal Cell Carcinoma. And his teacher is Mr. Chris Brandt. So again, we've got incredible things happening with our students in the classroom, on the fields, and in the community. And it shows here with what we have seen. Mr. John Muir is here. John and his staff created what we call Team 7. Team 7 is a great transition program for our special needs students. A lot of our high school special needs students, when they leave us, we want them to have a skill. We want them to have a trade. We want them to be productive citizens in our community. And Team 7 is a program we developed internally that is gaining recognition across the state and actually across the western part of the country. That we actually take our special needs students and our folks take them under their wings. Our electricians, our carpenters, our painters, our plumbers, and our nutritional services folks have developed a team. And they really, really, really do a great job of bringing those kids in-house, letting them gain a skill, and they put them to work. This summer we will have some of those special needs students working for us in our part-time summer program. So what a great opportunity. And John, I just want to say thank you. They have an actual celebration coming up this Friday, and I know Cave Creek will also be there in attendance. And we've really developed some good partnerships to help take care of our special needs students, and we really, really appreciate that. So thank you and your team. It's nice to see those crusty carpenters out there taking care of that. Madam President, that ends and concludes my superintendent's comments for this evening. And I just want to commend the board and the budget committee for all the hard work that everybody has done. This has been a tough road to hoe. We still have a little bit to go, but I think we've made some major milestones. And I think folks will be very happy that the contracts will be sent out this coming week.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Now we move on to the consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. However, if a member of the board desires discussion on any item, it will be removed and considered separately. So with that, is there a request for any items to be removed, or do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Hold on, because I'm pretty sure this is part of the consent agenda. The items that are in here for contract renewal, there's
Item-
a very, item what?
The item V is in Victor.
That's what I was trying to find. There's a very, very long list of items, maximums. I'm sorry? Okay, I guess that's why. And I guess one of my questions, looking at it, trying to look through it, I mean, there's maximums listed.
Or, hang on, before we
Sure.
get to questions, let's just make sure that we first have the correct item. Is you? Okay. I would. Is V, it's what I thought. It's item V. I would like to remove item D as in dog. And before we have discussion on those, are there any other items? Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended, removing items D and V as in Victor for separate discussion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Let's start with the personnel actions as item D is in dog. And I just had, I'm going to go back up to it. I had a question on, there were 4 individuals and I'm getting to them, they're temporary workers, I'm almost there. Recommended that the governing board approve the following as classified substitutes and temporary workers. There's 4 names with no school assignment or actual position assignment. Could we just talk about what that's all about?
Sure, Madam President. I checked on those because we knew the question was coming. They are 3 bus drivers in transportation that are temporary positions, and 1 is a tutor. So I went over to benefits, who's normally puts together the board agenda items, and that's just the format that she said she's used since she was in the position. We did talk about if there's a different format that we want, we're happy to make some adjustments to it too. So it was 3 bus drivers and 1 tutor.
And are those paid for out of M&O?
I'd have to go check the tutor to see if
The
it was
bus
gift
driver
dollars.
would be.
The bus drivers
Bus
are. I don't
drivers
know if that tutor was gift dollars or not. I'd have to double check that one. But the bus drivers are M&O.
Okay. I think with the scrutiny on the budget, and I don't anticipate that this is going to change in the upcoming years, it might be prudent to just follow the same format
Yeah,
as
we'll
we
use
do
the
for
same
everyone.
format and add the site location on them in the position.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And then item V, as in Victor, Board Member Perlberg.
Yes. Basically, it's similar along those lines, looking at what is M&O. I believe these are just kind of maximums that are discussed and looking at contracts. And I just thought it's kind of along the same idea that during this time, for the board to review those amounts or to hear your review of them at this time and if they affect the M&O.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, the amounts that you see here are amounts for next year. So we put just the 1-year amount there, even if it's a 5-year or a multi-year contract. These are renewal contracts, meaning that we've had a contract in place for several years, and every year in the spring we go out to all of our vendors per our contract and ask them if they are going to be changing, increasing, decreasing their contracts for next year, or even not renewing if that's their choice. And so these come in, and you can see that in the second column it shows the year that they're in. Most of our contracts are all 5-year contracts by law, so we usually do them in 1 to 5 years. In the 5th year we go back out and rebid them. Sometimes earlier depending on the vendor and if we have issues. These vary anywhere from capital items to food service funds to M&O funds and all those. Again, getting to the format of what we used in the past, we can start to add the funds that these contracts pertain to so that the governing board does have that knowledge.
Specifically on one, I think it's MIT or Medicaid reimbursement contract. I think in one meeting there was talk of changing that possibly. Do you recall that correctly?
Sure. The Southwest Educational Services, I believe, is the one you're speaking about. That one currently right now was maybe not being renewed, and the state was looking at possibly changing providers, but we have stuck with them and worked out some of the concerns, and we'll go forward with them until the contract renewal is up in 2 years.
In 2 years. And so some of the issues, they were addressed and changed.
Yes.
Okay.
Madam President, members of the board, we will, next to the item, the dollar amount, we will put in parentheses what the fund is, so that you will be able to see what that is. And I think that'll be helpful. We do that. And again, as Dan said, these are renewals year to year. So if we decide not to renew something, we have the ability not to renew something. We are not locked in for 5 years when we do these. It's a year-to-year renewal.
Yes, we look at them for both. If they're going to if they increase prices too much, we can non-renew them and go out to bat. If we have issues with them and they're not resolved, we can renew them and go out to bid it any year within the 5 years. That's why we do it as a multi-year contract, but renewable every year to allow us to be able to do that every year.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay. Is there any objection to approving both item D and V in a single motion? Okay. Do I have a motion then?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve consent agenda items D, personnel actions, and V, approve the renewal of contracts. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, Dr. Peterson.
Thank you, Madam President. First this evening, we have a report from one of our community organizations, Valley Interfaith Project, and they're going to come up and give a short presentation regarding some of the activities they're doing to help school funding in Arizona.
Good evening, Madam President, Governing Board, Ms. Cuomo, and Dr. Peterson. I'm Jora Visage, and I'm a parent from Arcadia Neighborhood Learning Center, 2 children.
I am Tom Trickle from ANLC in Arcadia, also a Coronado High School graduate and Shepherd of the Hills congregation member.
We are united parents, community members, and concerned citizens who are concerned about the difficult choices that Scottsdale Unified School District is facing. We are working with Valley Interfaith Project, VIP, a broad-based organization in the Valley that works with communities like ours to address issues important to our families. Since the fall, a team of our leaders have been working together to understand the effects of the state budget cuts to our schools. Our team has met with district officials, with state legislators, and others to understand not only the cuts that we're facing now, but how also we got into this situation. This has not happened to us overnight, and we're not going to turn things around with a snap of the fingers. Our state has cut school funding by 21.8%, more than any other state. There are bound to be hard decisions to make and work hard to chart a new direction. And there are bound to be local tensions when we starve our schools to this degree. We parents and leaders believe in public education, and we believe in our Scottsdale schools. We're proud of our schools, of our teachers, students, and everyone involved who makes the school work. It takes all of us to create a powerful learning community, and we are in this together. Last month, we began talking to you about crafting a resolution calling on the state to restore funding to our schools.
Tonight, we are here to support you, the board, taking the resolution to the Arizona State Board Association in September. That group must respond to this crisis. We also strongly encourage the Scottsdale Unified School District to take a leadership role in this movement by independently submitting our proposed resolution to the governor, president of the Senate, speaker of the House, and to our legislators now. The Arizona State Constitution, written in 1910, declares in Article 11, Section 10, that the state, I quote, shall ensure the proper maintenance of all educational institutions and shall make special appropriations as shall provide for their development and improvement. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor interprets this as the state legislature is required to ensure the proper maintenance of all state education institutions, even in tough times, and to make special appropriations as shall provide for their development and maintenance. We feel there's no better time than right now to take this resolution to the state. It will help afford our children the education that they require and what they deserve. Dr. Peterson, who has left the room. All right. We urge you to send the resolution to the governor's desk before the state's budget is finalized. In the governor's budget, with state Medicaid expansion, there's $130 million out there for education in Arizona. That's a big start. It is crucial that our state leaders begin to make education for over 1 million children in the state a priority. This is about a generational change in creating a new mindset in Arizona to benefit not only our children but our grandchildren too. We urge you to take a leadership role in making this happen. Thank you for your consideration, Dr. Peterson and board members.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Board Member Brown.
I'd just like to commend this group. They have worked very hard, engaged a lot of the neighbors. I mean, I know for a fact in my neighborhood where I work at Shepherd of the Hills, these folks have met I don't know how many mornings, countless mornings with folks like Dr. Meyer and our representatives. Joe Rubio has done a wonderful job of putting things together, and we had a wonderful meeting at our church, which David and I, Dr. Peterson, and I had a chance to attend. Informative, civil, and I think it truly helped us all move forward. So I want to thank you guys for your efforts. So how do we present this resolution now and talk about this and do this, or how do we do this?
Right now, it's an information discussion item, so if you want to do it, we would bring it back next meeting as an action item.
So I would look to the board. Is there an interest? Because we also have the ASBA discussion, which we are voting on tonight, later on. Similar. I'm looking to the board. Do I have the majority of the board want to bring this forward as an
I
action
think this
item?
is a healthy item to bring forward and try to engage our larger part of the community.
I completely agree. I'm completely on board. I think it's a wonderful thing they're doing.
Can I just add a couple comments? I apologize for interrupting what we've done. What VIP and parents that we've been, who make up this group, we are really urging Scottsdale to take almost a leadership role in this forefront, and because it is a new concept that is being brought forth for Arizona, and it is for all children. And what better representation to model after than having Scottsdale Unified School District present this to the state.
So have you approached any other school districts? Had any other board presentations in the
Ye-
state?
Yes, we are in contacts with other school districts and superintendents, Dysart, Kyrene, other districts we've been, and all over the state actually. But we really feel strongly in Scottsdale's leadership and the way that Scottsdale has been able to manage what Arizona has done to public education over the past, 5-10 years. So,
To be direct, do you have any other school boards that have signed the resolution that you've asked us to sign?
No, but Joe Rubio is actually in Prescott tonight meeting with the school superintendent and the school board up there. So we are in the process with other school districts as well. But we've come to you first. Joe Rubio's an ANLC parent, Arcadia parent. This is his neighborhood. So we came to you guys first because it obviously affects our neighborhoods here locally.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I would just concur with George and Denny. I think this is a strong step forward where our community needs to go for public education, and I agree with the resolution.
Okay, so we'll bring that forward then as an action item. Has everyone's received the resolution?
Yes.
I would encourage the board, if you have any changes or comments or questions, we need to get that to Sandra because we don't want to be changing resolution on the dais. And so we can either do one of two things. We can bring it forward to our next meeting as a discussion item to make sure we're all on board with the language of the resolution and then put it as an action item for the next meeting, or we can go straight to the action item on the next meeting.
For next meeting, are you meaning Monday, the special
No,
meeting?
I don't want to change the agenda for that. It would be the meeting after that. I think I would prefer if we could, not the Monday meeting. I don't want to change that agenda, but for the May 28th, let's have the language of the resolution in front of us for discussion, make sure we all agree with it, and then for the June 5th or June 11th meeting, we can put it as an action item.
Okay.
Okay.
And can we ask, because the governor's budget is looming towards the end of June, are we able to get a commitment that would be presented to the state before the budget is finalized?
Well, I can't commit how this board's going to vote.
Well,
So
right. I know, but I guess setting a prospect
and I'm
of-
not sure. I can't even commit to when the governor is going to finalize the budget. I mean, she certainly doesn't answer to us. So I think that's the timeline that we will follow, and
So we're
I
just
suspect
hoping,
we'll be ahead of where they are.
We're just hoping for before the budget, so that's all. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Thomas, is the Student Advisory Board present?
Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Peterson and Sandra, they're all here.
Hey.
It is my pleasure, after 3 complete years, to introduce the Student Advisory Board President, Isabel Carter-Kahn. Before I do that, though, it's hard to believe that this is an idea that was started by students 3 years ago and now is getting ready to not only finish its 3rd year, but to begin its 4th year. Long story short about Student Advisory Board, they're amazing, great future, and I'm going to introduce Isabel Carter-Kahn, who is going to give the last report of her presidency. Isabel?
Thank you, Dr. Thomas, and thank everyone here for hearing us again today. First, I'd like to thank everyone who came today to make public comments, especially the teachers who were here, who I've had the privilege of being taught by, Mr. Dykus, who isn't here anymore, Ms. Marsh, Mr. Van Buren, Mr. Hammond, Mr. Basila, and Ms. Pierner. I agree wholeheartedly with what they have said, that the classroom is 100% where I've grown and learned, and the focus going forward in tight times needs to be in the classroom and on the relationship between students and teachers. As for Student Advisory Board, this is the last time you'll be hearing from me as I'm graduating. Student Advisory Board is wrapped up for the year except for a party tomorrow that we're having to introduce new members, which we have over 15. We'll be passing on our student survey and our intramural sports initiative project to next year's board. We recently ran our second trial of the survey, and next year's board will analyze the results and figure out how to proceed. And what we're projecting is that it's going to be positive results again, and that we will expand that program. I also have confidence that next year's board will make huge strides in intramural sports, as we've already been on the road to making that happen. And another thank you to Dr. Peterson for helping us out with that. I would also like to say that our presence on committees this year, like the grading committee and the budget committee and technology committee, has been my absolute favorite part of Student Advisory Board. Even though I wasn't directly on one of the committees, it allowed me to feel like the students had a voice, and it taught me a lot about what goes on behind the scenes. And I really hope to continue with that that the board will continue with that next year and even expand on that. Many of our seniors are leaving this year, and I'd just like to honor them because they are leaving to colleges that are amazing, such as Washington University in St. Louis, University of Nebraska, Barnard, UC San Diego, USC, Cornell, and I'm going to Scripps. Aditya Vijay, who is our vice president, couldn't be here today. He's going to UCSD, and Tim Willetts, who is our secretary, is also not here today, but he is going to Cornell. So I'd like to introduce you to our officers for next year. Aranya Tatapudi, who is going to be our secretary, David Kaiser, who is our vice president, and Evelyn Karras, who is our new president.
Hello, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Peterson, Ms. Como. Excuse me. I'm Evelyn Karras. I'm currently a junior at Chaparral, and I'm going to be the president of Student Advisory Board next year. I'm really looking forward to next year because I believe we can make great strides with this student teacher surveys, along with the intramural sports programs that we've already started in the past years along with this year. And I also hope that we can initiate new programs that will be equally beneficial to both the teachers and students in Scottsdale Unified School District. I too hope to continue SAB's attendance on the various boards and committees that are currently in SUSD. I was on the technology committee this past year, and I learned a lot. I really enjoyed it. It can be kind of stressful at times, but it helps a lot to understand the thought mentality behind decisions that the district makes. I'm really excited for next year, and I know that we will do a lot with your help and with the help of the students who are on the board. So thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for your great work. You've been wonderful. And they truly do work. They're diligent getting together. They spend a lot of time electronically communicating, and they have great insight. And so we truly appreciate our students and the ability that they, I can honestly tell you, they're not shy. They tell us pretty clearly the things that they're thinking. So we appreciate them and all their efforts.
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Next item, if I took notes correctly at the beginning, is the report from the Budget Committee.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. Our Budget Committee, again, is a committee that has done incredible work. They've come together. They've spent a lot of time talking. They've done a lot of hard work. Mr. Steve Kaprobich has come on board, and he did facilitate the last of our meetings for us, and he has a presentation to give. I also would like to let you know that there's finally some movement in the ICE jam down at the legislature for the budget. Senate President Biggs has pushed forward his budget. It was heard in the Rules Committee. It's going to the Appropriations Committee, and then it will be moving forward. We think that it'll probably go to the House of Representatives on Monday. And in that budget, it's tracking kind of where we thought. We had money from the governor's budget for performance pay and for the Common Core. The legislature does not want to call it performance pay and Common Core. They just want to call it inflation. And we believe part of that is because the pending lawsuit that is at the Supreme Court regarding inflation, it appears, and this is very, very unique, that this early on in the process, there's defeat being conceded. But it appears that the legislature realizes they're not going to win that lawsuit, and so they are, instead of calling that money Common Core and performance pay, they're automatically calling it inflation for this coming year. So they're going to give us $82 million for inflation for the state for schools. Not enough, but at least they're finally recognizing they're going to fund inflation. So that's where we are, and hopefully we will have some semblance of a better picture of the budget the first of next week. And I will be spending some time down there on Monday to try to get that cleared up.
Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. Madam President, members of the Governing Board, Dr. Peterson, I wish I could say I was here under better circumstances, but it's nice to see you. Again, I'm here to tell you a little bit about what's been going on. I think you've seen some of this information already, so I think what I'd like to do is just give you some of my more objective observations about how the committee's been working and what we've been coming up with, and allow you to ask some questions.
Before you go on, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you, I know this is a very important topic to everyone who stayed. Can you hear him in the back of the room? Because I can barely hear him up here. Okay, thank you.
I'll eat the mic. First of all, I think, again, I was brought in midstream. I've been working with the committee now for the last 4 meetings. I must say it's a very passionate group, but it's a very knowledgeable group, very committed group. I think it's a great bunch of folks with good thoughts and good minds, and I think we've made some real headway on trying to understand each other as a group and trying to find common ground where we could find sensible recommendations, keeping in mind the principles and the ideas, many of which you've heard already here at this meeting. So again, we've been working now for 4 more meetings since you've heard a report from the committee. There was an intent to bring in more parents, seek additional ideas, make sure that everyone's voice was heard. So we've really worked on managing the conversation, making sure that all ideas were on the table. There was a fairly extensive, comprehensive list that was compiled of every single issue or idea that was raised by committee members, and that was given to the group. It was talked about in several sessions, but it was very important for us to make sure that no idea was thrown out, that every idea was valued, and then when they had a chance to discuss it. We also discussed the fact that we were not going to reach a unanimous decision on every single item, that there was some measure of success, and we decided it would be a supermajority vote. So we were trying to get to 2/3 majority, can live with the recommendation to decide that that became a consensus item. After 4 meetings, we did reach consensus on 19 items, a little over $3.6 million. Some items, it's hard to place a price tag on, so it could be higher. When we ended, there are 17 additional items on in your packet that potentially could become consensus items that we still need further information or discussion around. We went through a series of really trying to make sure everyone was on the same page of understanding our purpose, how we can improve as a committee, how we looked at these issues. And I want to just highlight this slide because it was really interesting to see the group try to understand where each one's coming from, that we had different lenses on how we viewed budget cuts. And so it was all related to folks who saw it from a strategic lens, who saw it from a student lens, from staff perspective, from the community perspective. And this was really big for the committee. I think you've heard that tonight, that there's this concern that we've got to stay positive for the community to make sure that that override passes. And so whatever we do, we've got to stay together, keep the message positive. There was folks on the committee who made sense that we, or made sure that we're holding our fiduciary responsibilities true to what we need to do. There are process improvements recommended, and there are folks on the committee who were part of previous budget reductions, and we learned from that experience. But bottom line, I think we all understood, and recognize that this district is an excellent district. Many of us have our kids here. I have my kids here. Graduating my last one next week. It's a very good school district, and we want to keep it that way. We want to maintain the district's competitiveness, but we understand we've got a tough task to do, and the challenge there is to do that in such a way that it's balanced and equitable across the board. So with that in mind, we looked at this comprehensive list. It was over 100 items. Again, I tried to get the group to focus on things that they could live with and not live with. In the first round we went through this list, we did identify up to 34 items where at least a third of the committee could agree to talk about it, can live with the idea. And so from that discussion, we initially reached 13 items with consensus at 2/3 or more of voting. We continue to whittle away at that list of looking for items where at least there were multiple votes of can live with. We had a total of roughly, I think it was 77 items we tried to look at in the context of 4 meetings. There was homework. We sent additional surveys out over the internet, which led to, at May 2nd meeting, 17 additional items that we identified and voted on that potentially could be possibilities for us to take a look at. I want to highlight there under May 2nd that there were a number of issues that the committee continued to want information on. What was the growth with teachers versus non-teacher positions? A lot of discussion around the central office enrollment function. A lot of discussion around transportation efficiencies and trying to really understand alternative and special education. And we spent a good chunk of the time on May 2nd really diving into those topics. There were multiple emails, Q&A sent out. I must commend the staff for being very responsive to just a whole lot of emails I had a hard time following and keeping up with. But the staff did a great job of trying to get the answers and keeping all this together, and I commend them for it. Here's what we came up with, and again, you've probably seen this, but the interesting thing is there are some things that we did reach 100% agreement upon there at the top of the list. And then as you move down, you can see where it got less support. But bottom line, we were looking for at least 2/3 can live with these recommendations, and this added up to $3.6 million. The second table then shows you possible consensus items. And again, a lot of these ideas, they revolved around either efficiencies, obviously cuts, things that could bolster some revenue. And if we looked at a revenue item, we tried to make sure it was something realistic and that was not already done or at least could be enhanced. And we looked at new ways of trying to collect fees that were uncollected, or just different ways that we can just improve overall efficiency. And here's where some additional items along those lines. I want to highlight the top item in particular because it was voted upon with different options. And so you see option A, B, and C related to the mix of possible certified librarians. If there was a conversion to happen, what would be the most favorable option? And option C came in at 56% of all those voting. The bottom table shows you the votes. The green represents you can live with that item. Yellow represents I need more information. And red represents off the table. So I particularly paid attention to things that were off the table, tried to not focus the conversation around those items, focus more on the things that people can live with or at least needed additional information on. And so you can see what those items are. So with that moving forward, again, we serve at the pleasure of this board and the superintendent. I think there is a desire to keep this committee going. We know the issue is not going to just go away. It's going to continue to remain. And whatever the committee can do to be helpful, to continue to look at expenditures and provide updates, we'll be willing to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. As we move to the question and answer phase, if I could just ask everyone, I'm getting messages that folks at home can't hear what's being presented, so if we can really try to speak up into the microphone as much as possible. Thanks. Any questions? Fingers on the button. Board Member Sneed.
We've gone over and over and over a lot of this, but mostly what I wanted to do is just make a comment to Mr. Caprobris and thank him for his facilitation. I know the Budget Committee and a Calendar Committee are the two committees where most people would rather not put their feet in the fire, so I know the value of a good facilitator from past experiences, and I thank you for your work. I don't really have the budget question because we discussed a lot of that in work study.
Thank you. Board Member Jackson.
I just wanted to reiterate what Board Member Sneed said. Steve, thank you for a wonderful job. I know initially Danny was dealing with a lot, and I think you came in and helped bring some structure to this committee, and I think it's Danny's, between the two of you, you've done a wonderful job, and so thank you very much for your hard work. We did go through a lot of this at the study session, so I don't have a budget question at this moment either, but really pleased with the work done by the Budget Committee, and thank you.
Board Member Brown.
Oh, I figure I better jump in. Yeah, thanks, bud. I appreciate your efforts. Dan, I appreciate your efforts. You know, it's time for us all to move forward. It's time to get down the road. It's time to be positive. This has been ugly. This has been terrible. I think we always have to remember that we have an A district led by Dr. David Peterson, who has made us successful and will keep us successful. Let's get it together. We'll endure it this year, and we're going to do our best next year. Thank you.
I had the privilege, and it was a privilege to sit on the Budget Committee, and it was a very diverse committee, very passionate, engaged group of 25 people that showed up weekly for 2 hours to roll up their sleeves and work on behalf of the 25,000 students in this district. And if it had been easy, we wouldn't have achieved the great results we did. And I am very proud of the results we did achieve on the Budget Committee. We brought in more folks. We extended the committee's life, maybe even beyond what I'm hearing than just this month. I mean, maybe we are going to keep this as a year-round committee that's going to continue to work for efficiencies, and that will be up for discussion here soon. Mr. Kapovas, thank you very much for your facilitation efforts. We did discuss this at length in work study. We got to a point where we think we are within about $40,000 to $50,000 of closing this gap. We have a few unknowns still out there with the state budget, but we continue to plod through this, and we continue to move forward. And it didn't happen as a result of just a few people. It took an entire village. And so on behalf of the board, I want to thank Dr. Peterson, Mr. O'Brien, Mr. Kapobris, and the entire committee. I see many of you sitting in here tonight. If you could stand, if you're here and you were a member of the committee, could you please stand? So thank you. And I do see the light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you very much. Anything else? Are we ready to move forward to the next item? Okay. The next item I have is item C, revision of governing board policy JFB open enrollment.
Thank you, Madam President. The next two items are regulations. So one's a policy and one's a regulation. So Michelle will go from one to the next for you. The first one's open enrollment. The next one is a slight revision we've done on the regulation based on input from the Budget Committee regarding our public gifts and donations to schools. So Michelle?
Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Madam President, members of the board, I apologize, I have to skip around a little bit because I put open enrollment second and it's not that way on the agenda. So I'll start with policy JFB open enrollment. You might remember we had some of this discussion regarding the Pueblo Fly program and opening those boundaries, and this is a follow-up to that. It's broader than just the Fly program. What we did is we took the policy JFB and we clarified that All of our pre-K students who are enrolled in our pre-K community schools programs will be rolled up to the kindergarten at the elementary school where they're enrolled, so that they have that priority regardless of where they are residing. And then we also added a priority category for students who are enrolled in the early childhood campuses at Cholla and Oak. Because those sites are not connected to a particular school, we wanted to honor that they were in our community ed program and offer them a priority opportunity to open enroll to the kindergarten in our district. I'll go ahead and do the next one and then take questions, or does anybody have questions now?
Any questions?
The other item that I have for your consideration today is our policy on public gifts and donations to schools. We heard loud and clear that we wanted to have more flexibility for the district to be able to use donations and gifts from our supporters to support teachers and classified staff that support the classrooms. So we went back and looked at policy KCD, and that policy doesn't really need any revision. It basically says the superintendent will create regulations and rules about how to accept gifts, that we can accept gifts, and that he'll create rules about that. So this isn't before you for a first and second read because you don't need to approve regulations, but we are recommending making a couple of changes to the regulation, to that policy, and we'd love to get your feedback. The first item that we suggest changing is one of the concerns we've had in the past about using gift funds for positions like this is what happens if we don't get the gift in time, what happens if the money isn't there the next year, how are we going to deal with that? So one of the things that we decided to add is that to ensure that funding is in place before we go into hiring somebody or engaging in a contract, the superintendent or his designee will establish a deadline for actual receipt of the funds. So it's in our hands before we try to go spend it. So we added that. And then the other, one other thing that we wanted to add is apparently there was some confusion about how we could use tutors through gift funds. And so in consultation with administration, we recommended adding a section that talks about funds for certificated positions are absolutely okay to be used for tutoring to supplement instruction in the classroom. Finally, we wanted to make sure that we have equity across the district with our gifts. We know that our parents want to support the schools where their kids are, and we can do that with these changes to the regulations. But in addition, we want to retain control that positions funded with gift monies need to be determined on the basis of the needs of the district as a whole, looking at equity across the district. So we added some language to allow for that. And with that, I will take any questions.
Marshall, questions? Board Member Sneed.
Thank you for the presentation. I know that there are some schools right now that have like reading specialists or library aides. The PTOs gift the money for that. I guess I would just like a little more clarification on how the equity is going to be determined, because most people who give a gift want it to go to a certain school. And I'm sure there'll be some that say that it's okay for the district to decide, but we certainly don't want to discourage people from supporting their local school. And I'm wondering how that is foreseen.
Absolutely, Board Member Sneed. We have had some discussion about that. I'm working with our CFO on a donation form specific to allowing for positions. And the reason we have both provisions in there, the one about you can support a supplemental at your school and the one about allowing us to retain control, is because we did want to honor those parents who want to support the school where their kids are. And when we get those kinds of offers, we want to consider those in light of what is needed at the actual school as well as what's needed in the district. And if we decide, it's going to have to be on a case-by-case basis, and we'll have those conversations with parents as they offer.
Board Member Perleberg?
So I guess I'm trying to picture what that means. I mean, as far as parents, PTOs donating into like a general fund?
Right.
Is that what the idea is? And in that general fund, the district is forming language so that they can decide where those monies should go?
Danny, do you wanna-
Is that?
Board Member Perlberg, Madam President, members of the board. What we're trying to do is, it'll still stay within the gifts and donations fund, but what we want to do within that fund is separate out those from other funds so that we keep track of this money, so that we know what program and where it's going to go. So we'll set up a different account code structure, if you will, to make sure that we track the money coming in and exactly where it's going out, so that we also have accountability of the funds. Very similar to donations we do now. If somebody donates, such as earlier this evening, when AV Homes donated to Mojave Middle School, that money will go into its own account code string, if you will, that makes sure that it will only be used for the fine arts purposes at Mojave. We'll do the same with this, but it'll be a little bit more of a general district-wide funds to make sure that we touch all of our equity issues and bases and all those items, and then be able to track those as just its own little pot of fund within the gift and donation fund that we have for it.
So we're still looking at the distinguishing between, I mean, certified staff, obviously, there's tutors, aides, those types of things have been allowed to be paid for by PTOs, but not teachers for classrooms.
Right.
And that, will not change that at all, is that correct? Or are you looking at this general fund idea as potentially paying for teachers in a classroom, but the district determines where those teachers will be? I'm just trying to picture what that will look like.
You want to talk about equity?
Sorry. Yes, we're talking about using the general fund as for certified staff, for a teacher in the classroom, in an equitable way across the district. We want to be careful that we've got that we have what we need at each of our sites. And so when people are wanting to support putting a teacher somewhere, we need to be careful and look at where's the program, how is it supported, does this work for this school? We can't just, put it where somebody wants it without looking at all of that. Does that?
Well, that's always been my
Right,
understanding,
right.
that that's our policy
Right.
with these donations, is that, we determine class sizes absolutely best we can, but across the board, and no one school's PTO can make their classrooms a size smaller. There's equity, and I guess that's just what I want to have clarified or hear, that this general fund, there's no intention with this language that these certified staff will be used for one particular, area, classroom size school.
Yes, absolutely, and that's why we are setting up that account string structure, so that we know that this is a district-wide program, if you will, that when they're donating to those PTOs and the APTs know that it's a district-wide program, and that if we're going to fund something, we're going to fund it exactly across the board where staff believes that it's equitable across all schools.
Thank you.
Did you have a question? Okay, go ahead, and then we'll come
Sorry,
back to you.
my lights burned out. There's a metaphor for you. My question is, so this will apply to certificated employees, but it will be a supplemental contract. So will it include benefits? Will it include, I know it says that it specifically says that they won't accrue seniority. I'm wondering if benefits will be paid, what contract will be honored as far as sick days or vacation days or whatever.
I believe, Board Member Sneed, Madam President, board members, we have a couple scenarios here that we're talking about. Michelle spoke about kind of tutoring, and tutoring is kind of a supplemental contract. But if we do have an initiative from our PTOs or APTs to do something on a district-wide basis that would take into account full-time staff, then they would be getting a full-time one-year contract that would pay them their benefits and other items such as state retirement and other items. Those items we can't really restrict. If an employee goes over a certain number of hours, we have to pay them ASRS, whether they're on a supplemental contract or a regular teaching contract or a classified contract or admin contract. So if there's a gift that comes in large enough to be able to pay for a program that we believe is district-wide, then those contracts will be put in place. But they will have some of the items that Michelle spoke about not gaining seniority and all those, but the benefits themselves will be there, such as they are just a regular employee.
Okay, so if and I'm just thinking ahead a little bit, since generally when we talk about gifted programs, and this is confusing because yeah, I had a little bit of a hard time reading gifted in here because I know there are going to be people that don't understand the difference between our gifted program and gifting, I guess. One of the things that I wondered is, would things like substitute days be included in the gift? I mean, because that was one of the things that we've always said is if someone gives a program or gives a gift to the school, that they will maintain that, all of the costs that are involved. And so that was the other question I had.
Yes, absolutely. I believe we've kept the language in there to make sure that if that gift is to do a certain program, that gift has to cover all costs of that program, including but not limited to the full employee contract, the full benefits, state retirement, and any other funds that are needed to fully fund that program, such as substitutes possibly also.
Okay, and one more question. Will any of these changes affect current people that are working within the district? I know reading specialists, librarians, things like that, it won't change their status.
No, it won't change your status at all.
Okay. And Mr. O'Brien, I wanted to thank you too for your budget committee work. I didn't want to overlook that, but I think in my mind I was just thinking I thanked you previously, and so I thanked Mr. Caprobris this time, but I honor your work as well.
Board Member Brown.
I was just curious. I didn't want to let you off the hook without asking a question. I just had to make something up. Would there be any benefit to creating a situation where folks or corporations donate to the foundation, and then the foundation would then donate to us? Would there be any benefit of that in terms of lifting restrictions, amounts, whatever? Would that benefit us at all? That's my only question.
In terms of what we have to do with employees, ASRS, and those kinds of requirements, no. Having it go through the foundation wouldn't make a difference as to our obligations to the employee. Does that answer your question? No.
No. But we'll take it from whoever wants to, whichever hand wants to give it, we'll take it.
Okay, so just to clarify, these donations, as it would be structured for the donor, would be tax deductible, correct? Are they charitable donations? Are they considered?
They are charitable donations and have the possibility of being tax deductible, but they would have to ask their accountant professional.
Okay, thank you for the standard disclaimer. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's very fair. As a good CFO would do. Thank you very much. And then the other, have you thought about the logistics of, I almost hate to use this example because I don't want there to be confusion. Let me preface it by saying we are keeping our nurses next year, okay? But let's just use that as an example. If we get into a year where we are looking at cutting a class of employees, and to save the nurses would cost $500,000. Well, you might have several donors who would like to contribute to that cause, but not one of them would be the one $500,000 donor. So have you thought about the logistics of how you would collect the donations and hold them in a fund if and when you achieve your mark, your $500,000 hurdle, that you then could pull the trigger, and if you don't, how you would return those funds. Have you thought through how that might work?
Okay.
Or is that your summer project?
But it's always a project. No, Madam President, members of the board, that's kind of where we got to, like on the timeline and stuff of the superintendent or designee, is if we saw a collective group coming together to possibly save nurses, although nurses are being saved, I'll reiterate that, then we would sit down as a district and say, okay, we believe it's going to cost this much. And because they are a nurse, they have such and such a deadline to get a contract out. And so you kind of take that far date and kind of back down. That is one of the items, yes, summer project, that I'll be working with Michelle and Dr. Thomas to kind of build that form so that, like, if a group comes and says, okay, well, we're ready to do nurses, then we can have that outline and all that information ready in a nice, concise packet to allow them to know what they need to do and how they need to go about it. Returning charitable donations is a very tricky item because of the tax concerns. So we do not have a practice of returning donations, but we will have to spell that out in the information that's given out to the groups that are trying to get those donations and where that time frame looks. And it is a summer project working with the groups that come, and we might say, well, you might need to hold it until this amount is gotten.
So you might get pledges.
Yes,
like that. Okay.
and then work through that letters of intent, other items that will then, we will work with them on the timeline to ensure that by this date, please do this, and once you get this amount, then please come forward to us and we'll receive that donation. Because once we receive it, once we give out those donations, and how people file those tax returns, we can't control. So giving back donations is a very tricky item.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, thank you both very much. Thanks for your work on this. Okay, we next move to the action item, proposed issues to submit to the Arizona School Boards Association for discussion at the Delegate Assembly on September 7th, 2013, and selection of a delegate and alternate to the Delegate Assembly. I am going to ask Board Member Sneed to take us through this.
Thank you, President Kirby. As we discussed before, ASBA has asked us to, rather than to just give them a list of 10 items to look at for the legislative committee to look at, they've asked us to prioritize and to divide items between things that we would like to see addressed immediately, short-term issues over the period of 3 to 5 years, and long-term issues over a period of 5 to 10 years. We did have some input. I massaged it a little bit, and if you have any questions or you want to talk about moving it from one category to another, on the sheet that was given to you today, these were examples that the ASBA Legislative Committee actually gave us. So some of the things that we mentioned that we talked about maybe doing long-term, if they think they can get them done sooner and they were a priority to us, I put them in here and tried to fit it within the small amount of space that the survey allows. For the 2014 session-specific issues, we had number 1, reinstate inflation funding and capital funding. 2, oppose all unfunded or underfunded mandates. And 3, change ballot language to reflect renewal of override and or local support instead of budget increase. There was discussion amongst this board whether to make that short-term or 3 to 5 years. Let me know if you want me to move it. So the short-term issues are number 1, raise per student funding to the national average. Number 2, raise special education funding. And number 3, fund full-day kindergarten programs. Long-term issues, 1, uphold local control. 2, raise per student funding to the national average, which, again, they'll massage this and put it, the legislative committee will actually take all of the recommendations from the different districts and they will put it into the category that they think is most appropriate, where they think they'll have the most success. And number 3, reduce administrative requirements for funding.
Thank you for the recap. Questions? Lights. Okay, I have a question. On the short-term issues, the raised special education funding, that's more of a federal initiative, correct? And
It is, and they work on both state and federal.
okay, that was going to be my question. And then on the 2014 session-specific issues, the reinstate inflation funding and capital funding, I know is what we talked about just about a week ago. And we just heard from Dr. Peterson tonight that they are renaming the funding to inflation funding.
Right.
And so should we reconsider that or just leave it on the list as to continue to highlight?
My
Or-
recommendation would be to, because we haven't had capital funding for so many years, at least leave that part there. But honestly, my recommendation would be to go ahead and turn this in because the legislative committee, which is made up of about 30 people, they're going to massage it anyway.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you. Do we have a motion to, oh, and we need to talk about the delegate. Let's go ahead and just reconfirm the delegate and the alternate, and we'll do one motion. Delegate was, remind me,
Bonnie.
Board Member Sneed, and the alternate was Board Member Brown. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve Board Member Sneed as the delegate to the Assembly on September 7th, 2013, Board Member Brown is the alternate to the Delegate Assembly, as well as the issues to submit to the ASBA Legislative Committee for consideration as presented?
So moved?
Seconded.
It's been moved by Board Member Jackson, seconded by Board Member Perleberg. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Board Member Sneed, for pulling this together for us. I appreciate it. Okay. Future action. Are there any requests for future action? Do any of the board members have any governing board reports? Board Member Brown.
In all the chaos that we've gone through, there are bright moments, especially this time of year, and I had the opportunity last night to attend the sports banquet. Absolutely awesome. You know, when you see these young folks standing up there, so proud, so proud. And you hear about what they have accomplished in sports, and then they turn around and say, or that you hear that they have a 4.6 GPA. You go, oh my gosh, what a thing to celebrate. And I just wanted to once again acknowledge the efforts of that board, which, geez, let's see, Cliff was on that, and Jeff was there, and David Peterson was there, and Bob Ford, and Mr. Cobb did the presentation, or the keynote speech. It was just a joy, and I think we need to constantly remember all the great things that happen in this district.
Thank you. Any other reports? Okay, so a recap of the dates of the upcoming meetings. We have Monday, May 20th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is a special governing board meeting work study. Tuesday, May 28th, from noon to 2 p.m., another work study. Both of those will be here at the Ed Center. We have Wednesday, June 5th, 10 a.m. to noon, another work study here at the Ed Center. Tuesday, June 11th, 4 p.m. study session, 5 p.m. business meeting here at the Ed Center. And that's all that I have through June 11th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second it?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.